It's time to make it, just give it a try. 'Cause you can make it like the old fat guy.
Thank you for joining us at another episode of You Can Make It with the Old Fat Guy. I'm David Farrell, the Old Fat Guy. Today we're going to make New England hot dog buns. What makes it a New England hot dog bun is it has flat sides, and instead of cutting it from the side, you cut down the middle of the bun and it opens up this way and you can put a lot more fillings in it. That's why I like New England hot dog buns. So let's get started. I have my stand mixer out with the paddle attachment on it. And here I have 2 cups of sifted flour that I had out, which is 500 milliliters. And I'm just going to put a half a cup or 125 milliliters of the flour in my mixer bowl. And in this bowl, I have 25 milliliters or 2 tablespoons of sugar, 2 milliliters or a half a teaspoon of salt, and 2 1/4 teaspoons or 1 packet or 12 milliliters of, and this is very important, it has to be instant rise yeast or rapid rise yeast. It can't be the regular yeast. And we're just going to add those to the flour in the mixing bowl. Now, what we'll be doing is taking this cup, which has half a cup or 125 milliliters of milk, 50 milliliters or 1/4 cup of water, and 25 milliliters or 2 tablespoons of butter or margarine in it, and heating it up to between 120 and 130 degrees Fahrenheit in my microwave. So we'll just take this over to the microwave. I find it starts at about a minute, so we'll just give it 1 minute, and that's on high. It's important that it not be too cold or it won't get the yeast going, and if it's too hot, it will kill the yeast. So make sure you keep it in that 120 to 130 degree Fahrenheit range. And you'll also note that the butter doesn't melt. That's okay, it's not supposed to. We're just trying to soften it up a little bit. So we'll just check it out. And that comes out to 127 degrees, and that's exactly what we want. So we'll just bring it back to our work counter. Just need to pour the liquid into the bowl, and it's important you use the paddle and not the dough hook like you would normally do for bread, because we're going to mix it up into a batter first. And we'll just put it on medium. Now, it will mix for 2 minutes at medium. It's mixed for 2 minutes. So we're just going to take the paddle off of the stand mixer and substitute a dough hook. Now, if you don't have a stand mixer, you could beat that liquid up by hand and then knead the flour into it by making a pile on the table and pouring the liquid in and slowly mixing it and kneading it for 7 minutes. But a stand mixer is a lot easier. So I'm just going to put the remainder of the flour in the bowl. And you put the dough hook down and turn it on low for just a couple of minutes until the dough starts to stick to the dough hook. And you'll just let it run like this until it starts to get a ball that forms on the dough hook. The ball's just starting to form up now. You can see that it's starting to grab and get a little bit hooked in around the dough hook. From this point, you want to continue to run the dough hook for 7 minutes. This has been running for 7 minutes now, so let's shut it off. And you'll see, you can tell it's just right because the dough's nice and smooth and silky and sort of satiny. And you're just going to take it off, and I put a bit of flour on the counter, and you're just going to roll it in the flour to get a bit of flour dusting on it, and throw it back in the bowl. I'm going to cover that with a tea towel and let it sit for 10 minutes. Our dough's rested for 10 minutes with a tea towel on it, and I floured a work surface just by sprinkling some all-purpose flour on the counter, and we're just going to take the dough out and make sure it's formed into a nice ball, because now we're going to form our buns. What you need to do is cut this into 16 individual small bowls, and you'll see why in a second. So we just cut it into quarters. There we go, and cut each quarter into quarters. Now you can, instead of doing all of this, you can buy a special pan for cooking New England hot dog buns, but it costs about $70, and who wants to spend $70 when you can use an 8-inch square cake pan, which you likely already have around your house. So that's why we're doing this cutting, is to get it into portions to make equal sized buns. So now that you've got it cut up into 16 pieces, the trick is to take 3 of the pieces and form them into a tube. Don't worry too much about it being pretty or anything, because it's going to rise and a lot of the imperfections will come out. So once you got it formed into a tube, just put 4 of them down beside each other in the pan. So we'll do 3 more. And 3 more. By putting it in the square pan and doing it this way, you'll end up with the straight sides that are the hallmark of a New England hot dog bun. And now the last 3 are going to go across this way. And you'll note we have 1 left over. You always get 1 extra little bun just for tasting when you make this recipe. So there's our 5 buns, and then this, just form it into a ball and put it right there in the pan. So just line them up like that. We're going to cover it with a tea towel, and we're going to let it sit for 40 minutes for the dough to double in size. Our buns have sat for 40 minutes in a warm place, and if you take a look at them, you'll see that they're doubled in size. They're nice and puffy, which is exactly what you want. Now they're going to go into a 375-degree oven for 20 minutes. We've had 20 minutes in the oven, and you can see they're a nice golden color, just what you want. And we're going to take them out and over to our workspace. So you just want to let the bread sit for a few seconds, just 35-40 seconds, so that it gets a chance to pull away from the sides. And then you just want to make sure it isn't sticking, which it isn't. And we're going to put it on a wire rack just to let them cool a bit. And that should sit and cool for, 3-4 minutes at least. 5 is better. The buns have sat for 5 minutes just to let them set up a bit. And we're just going to tear one off. Oh, look at that wonderful steam and the beautiful bun. I can just hardly wait. Now, remember, you cut these from the top, but don't cut all the way through. Just cut down like that. And now you can load that up with tons of stuff. As it so happens, I like my hot dogs with just a bit of mustard and a bit of relish. And I have a cooked hot dog right here that we shall put in our bun. You're all jealous now what's better than a hot dog, but you can see how it's cut from the top. Now we get to taste it. You can't buy a bun that good. Fresh bread is so much better than anything the stores make. It's got a wonderful texture. It doesn't overpower the hot dog. This is a wonderful hot dog bun, and you can make it. So I hope you'll tune back into our next segment and see what else you can make like the old fat guy.
In today's episode, David made New England hot dog buns. The ingredients used were all-purpose flour, sugar, rapid rise yeast, salt, milk, water, and butter. For the complete recipe, visit oldfatguy.ca. Remember, you can make it. It's time to make it. Just give it a try. 'Cause you can make it like the old fat guy.
Thanks for watching another episode of You Can Make It with the Old Fat Guy. That's me, David Farrell. Today we're going to make a barbecue chicken on a gas grill. Now, a lot of us have gas grills and we just cook burgers and steaks and that kind of thing. But I think if you can cook a great chicken, you're the master of the grill, so that's what we're going to do. One of the problems with cooking a chicken on a gas grill is it's big and it's tall, and to cook it all the way through, it tends to burn the skin before the meat gets cooked. So we're going to use a technique called spatchcocking, which lets you cut the bird up so it lies flat. And I'll show you how to spatchcock a chicken right now. We have here about a 3-pound frying chicken. Just make sure there's no parts in it. If there are, take them out and save them for making stock. Flip it over so the breast side is down on your cutting board and the drumsticks are facing towards you. Take a pair of poultry shears and you just want to cut down both sides of the backbone. There's one side, and we'll cut down the other side of the backbone. And that gets rid of the backbone. Save it for soup too. I'm sorry, just don't throw that stuff out. It's nice to have good chicken stock and you can use that. Then you'll notice that inside the chicken is a triangular shaped breastbone. You want to cut that out. So you start by just taking a sharp paring knife and start working down the edges of that triangular shaped bone. And then take your fingers in and run them down it and push the meat off of it. But don't cut all the way down or you'll end up cutting through the skin. Once you've cut each side of that, take your shears and cut through the rib bones all the way, just like that. And cut through them again on the other side. Now that you've got that done, you just want to slowly start slicing the meat so it peels away from the bone until you get all the way to the bottom of that triangular bone. Just keep slicing down. Once you get most of the way through, then just take your fingers and pull that up a little bit like that so you can get your knife under it. And then slice along under the triangular breastbone until it all comes out just like that. You have now spatchcocked a chicken. And what it does is when you flip it over, it lets the chicken lie flat so that when you cook it on a grill, it doesn't stand up high and you get a nice even cook through the whole chicken and you'll get a delicious barbecue chicken. Now that you've got the chicken spatchcocked though, we're going to season it. We're going to use a rub on it. And the rub I'm going to use is the most basic of barbecue rubs. I just mixed together 15 milliliters or 1 tablespoon of paprika, 15 milliliters and 1 tablespoon of brown sugar, 5 milliliters or 1 teaspoon of kosher salt, and 1 milliliter or 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne. And just mix that together in a bowl. It'll be more than you need, but you can use it for other things. So now that you've got that mixed up, you want to get it under the skin so it flavors the meat. Just take your finger and push it under the skin at the top of the breast and sweep around and lift the skin carefully off the breast. Do the same thing on the other side. And then we want to get it under the meat on the thighs. So we lift the skin at the edge of the thigh. Now this is a little harder sometimes, but just keep lifting and working your finger under there. And eventually it will slide under. And then work it down right over the drumstick meat. Same thing on the other side. Just get your finger under the skin. As I say, sometimes it's a little stickier on the skin here. It sticks a bit better, but just keep pulling at it. There we go. So you get your finger under the skin and work it underneath. So now that you've got the skin pulled off both sides of the breast and the thighs, we want to work a little bit of the rub. I use about 1 milliliter for each section. Now lift the whole up and drop it in. If this comes in contact with the chicken, it's contaminated and has to be washed right away. You couldn't put it back in there to contaminate the rest of the rub. So just put that in and rub it down so it goes all the way around that cavity, and repeat that with the other 3 cavities. It's not hard. It's a lot easier as you practice. So your second one will be easier than your first one. And the last cavity. And just rub it in. Now, I like to put the sauce under the skin too, because otherwise the sauce tends to just sit on top of the skin and not add flavor. I've just got a commercial barbecue sauce here. Use whichever is your favorite barbecue sauce. And this time I'm going to take a couple of milliliters, or about a half a teaspoon, and again, drop it from a little bit away. You don't want to contaminate the sauce. And rub the sauce under the skin. Same thing on each of the cavities. Just dump it in and rub it in. There's nothing like adding flavor to your chicken. Everybody will want to know how you got the flavor into the meat. Just tell them you're a genius. There's no need to let them know how easy it is. And the last cavity. And rub it in. Okay, now that you've got the cavities and under the skin, you're going to want to get a rub over the skin because the rub has sugar in it and it'll brown up and make the skin much tastier. So once again, make sure the spoon doesn't come in contact with the chicken. Just sprinkle it over the chicken with the spoon. Now, rub it in and look for places where you haven't managed to get any rub yet. And make sure you get underneath the wings. And you also want to note places where it isn't very thick and put some more rub on it. So you've got the chicken all rubbed up with the rub, and now I'm just going to take it out to the barbecue. You'll note that I have my barbecue set up so that the temperature inside is between 300 and 350 degrees. I did that by turning off one of the burners. This barbecue has 3 burners, and I've turned the center one off because you don't want any direct heat under the chicken. And I've turned the other 2 very low to keep that temperature of about 300 degrees. If you have a barbecue with 2 burners, turn one off and put the chicken on the side that's turned off and turn the other one down to low. Now you want to make sure this chicken doesn't stick to your grill, so if you just put a bit of vegetable oil in a bowl and take a paper towel and rub the grill, it's much less likely to stick. So now I'll just put the chicken on the grill. You want to start it out with the skin side down to get some browning on it first. And we're just going to let it sit for about 15 minutes to get some browning. Our chicken's been sitting skin side down for about 15 minutes, and we're just trying to get a bit of crisp on it. So you'll see how it doesn't stick too much because of the oil we put on. And we're just going to flip it over. And you see the nice golden color. Now, it's going to sit and cook like this for up to about an hour, but we're going to start checking it at 45 minutes because we want the internal temperature to be 165 degrees. That's how you'll know it's ready to put the barbecue sauce on it. It's been 45 minutes since we put the chicken in and flipped it. And after flipping it, you'll note that it's got a really beautiful golden color on it. But the only way to make sure it's safely cooked is to use an instant read thermometer. You want to put it in the thickest part of the breast and make sure it's over 165 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 171, so we're fine. The chicken is safe from salmonella and other bacteria. Now's the time that we're going to put some sauce on it. You want to put a good generous brushing of your favorite barbecue sauce on it because I like my chicken sticky. Make sure you get it under the wings and everything. Go and get it around the edges. Want good gooey sticky chicken. And this chicken just has to sit for 15 to 20 minutes to let the sauce cook onto it and glaze. I've brought the chicken in from the grill, and you'll notice the wonderful color, and the sauce is just cooked perfectly all over the chicken. Now with the chicken you have a couple of choices. You can carve it like you would your turkey dinner or whatever, or you can cut it in pieces. It's usual with barbecue to cut it in pieces, so that's what I'm going to do. So as you look at the chicken, it falls into some basic parts. I usually like to start by cutting the drumstick off. Just cut into the meat and just slice it off, and do both drumsticks. And you'll see how easily the thighs come off. That one just fell off on its own. So we'll cut the thighs off. And we'll put them on a plate just to get them ready to serve. Now, the chicken wings are next. Just slice into the meat, cut some of the white meat off with them, and put them on the plate to serve. Now you're left with the two breast halves. Just cut them down the middle. And I like to cut them again across it to give 4 white meat portions, because a lot of people like white meat. So we'll just cut across it and make 4 white meat portions. Just like that. And your chicken is ready to serve. Of course, now we have to taste it. So let's just take a little piece of the chicken and put it on the platter. And I'm not going to use a knife and fork because barbecue is meant to get your fingers dirty or whatever. So let's just dive into it and give it a bite. Really good taste from the barbecue sauce. The rub gets a little salty spiciness. The skin is crispy and delicious. This is an absolutely great barbecue chicken, and you can make it.
In this episode, David prepared barbecue chicken with a barbecue rub. The whole chicken used weighs approximately 1.5 kilograms. The ingredients for the barbecue rub are 15 milliliters of paprika, 15 milliliters of brown sugar, 5 milliliters of kosher salt, and 1 milliliter of cayenne. Also used was 125 milliliters of barbecue sauce. For the complete recipe, visit David's blog at oldfatguy.ca. And remember, you can make it.